Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching the Mutual Fund Show on NDTV Profit, and my name is Alex Matthew. This show gets you actionable insight into everything mutual fund related. And we speak about everything from which mutual fund schemes you should pay attention to and how you should govern your portfolio. On today's program, I'd like to focus on a very popular instrument or method that is being used to deploy funds into mutual funds, and that is the SIP. It's become a byword for investing into the mutual fund space. But the interesting question that I'm taking up today is, does it matter when you start your SIP? Can you time your SIP, and is there an advantage to starting at the bottom of a cycle as opposed to starting an SIP at the top of the cycle? That, and we'll also talk about certain other aspects with regard to stepping up SIPs, how important that is and how powerful that can be, and we'll talk about a cost averaging concept as well. Joining me on today's program, I've got Vineet Iyer, who's Principal Officer and Managing Director of Prudino Wealth, as well as Kshitij Mahajan, who's Managing Partner and Chief Executive Officer of Complete Circle. Thank you so much to the both of you for taking the time. Vineet, since you are in studio, I would like to talk to you about this first. We've spoken about the timing of SIP, and I must confess, this is because I saw an article by Value Research and I thought it was very interesting. I know the answer already, but I'm still going to ask the question. Is there a difference that you can achieve?
I don't think so, because first of all, timing the market is next to impossible for anyone. And there are two things you need to time right. One is the entry and the other one is the exit. And if luck favors you, then probably you'll be able to time one of them. In my practice, I've seen that SIPs helps you to kind of tide over different market cycles, and that's not going to actually impact in terms of a return, a significant return difference between timing the market and just simply going with the SIP at whatever level that you start with.
Okay, Kshitij, I want to come to you because you've also seen that report that I'm talking about, and there are specific examples. I've asked my producer to pull up two instances of that because just looking back over the last decade and a half, or maybe over the last 20 years, the two big crashes that really stand out are the 2008 financial crisis, where you had 14 months of a drop in equity markets. Of course, the COVID-19 crash was just 2.5 months, if that, but it was a sizable drop. In both those instances, it's not really much of a difference if you started at the start and at the end of the cycle, right, Kshitij?
Well, hi Alex, hi Vinny, and this is what we keep on telling everyone. In fact, White Oak has also done a study which is similar to that. But just to give put things in perspective, important is to be in the market. That is something which is very important. You are getting asset class which is capable of delivering you 14% plus. There's no commitment, but I'm saying, let's say if we have a nominal GDP of 12%, you can, with a good mix of fund, you can target 13-14% compounding plus, which is beating inflation as well as generating wealth for you. Second, what has become important here is that when you keep on waiting to catch the bottom or to start investing near the bottom, you miss on that 1 year of overall input value in the market, which can actually deliver a very good result. What Value Research has shown is the same pattern, that over a period of time, that money which you missed investing have generated a lot of delta, and it has created a big corpus different reserves when you waited for timing the market. And eventually what happened is, like, if 2-3 bips, they say it becomes huge over a period of time, but look at the quantum of money which you miss investing and scaling that investing at that amount, compounding that investing at that amount. Because what you miss in that 1 year, when you are talking about global financial crisis, or let's say when you're talking about COVID crisis, 5-6 months and they are 13 months, is only that SIP amount of 13 months for which you have got little lesser amount of return. But yes, the benefit of SIP always come in a better way when you keep investing at lower end, or maybe when markets are dipping. Better is that when if you have invested at the top or near the top and then market started correcting, it's good that if you can add some money on a monthly basis to your SIP rather than just keep on timing it and missing on a bigger opportunity, which is like being in the market.
It's a fair point, and I know that it's said very often, and it's kind of worn thin, this one statement that is used across the globe. Kshitij, Vineet, it is that more money is lost sitting on the sidelines than it is in the equity markets. And I think that holds true in our conversation today as well. Of course, in 2008, I would hazard a guess, I haven't gone back to see what the kind of SIP numbers were there, but they were certainly not close to 23,000 crore, which it is right now. So it's become a very...
It's less than 1,500 crore. Sorry, I'm cutting short.
Yeah,
Very less.
I'm glad that you've brought that up. 1,500 crores or thereabouts. So, I mean, people who utilize that time have actually benefited significantly. But at the same time, before we get into step-up SIPs, SIP, of course, is a great opportunity to average your cost over a period of time, but you can tactically use lump sums as well. I'll come to you first, Vineet. You can use both in tandem. Nobody says that you have to use just one or the other.
Absolutely. So in case if someone has lump sum and they're not sure if they should be deploying that lump sum now, it's always better to kind of spread this out over the next 6 to 12 months. So the thing that I usually recommend to my set of clients is if you've got, say, 10 lakh rupees and you're not sure whether you want to put that money right now, you probably invest in a debt fund, have a SWP coming in, and every month put that in the form of a short-term SIP over the next 6 to 12 months. So that helps you to average out and obviously ride in that volatility.
An STP or systematic transfer?
No, I'm talking about an SWP.
Why an SWP?
Yeah, so see, in STP, you can only do within a fund house.
Fund house, yeah.
For example, if I've got a 5 fund portfolio, I'll have to run 5 different STPs. I'll have to put 5 different liquid funds or debt funds, and then I'll eventually have 5 debt funds, 5 equity funds, so that'll be about 10 of them. So a smarter way is to invest in one debt fund, have an SWP coming in into your bank account, because taxation-wise, it doesn't make a difference whether the money comes into your account or moves from one scheme to another scheme.
It's still slab rate.
Yeah, it's still the slab rate. But it becomes easier that you have one fund inflow, and then from there, you have an SIP going in. So, so that's my suggestion.
Okay, that's a fair point. That's an interesting perspective. You want to weigh in, Kshitij, on using lump sums? Because, again, timing becomes a problem, but then if you see a significant deviation in your asset allocation, it's a great opportunity to average.
So, Alex, I will rather have money parked in the respective schemes because it will reduce my tag by 1 day, and moreover, what happens normally is that when you see you have a lump sum allocation, you should do STP. When you see that you're a salaried, you have some cash flows coming your way on a monthly basis, then you do SIP. That's what I would like to say here. Moreover, STP, the beauty is that if you have a commitment for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 10 weeks, but somehow if you get an opportunity like we have an opportunity today or tomorrow, if something happens, let's say, take for example, then you can expedite your switches from liquid to equity. That is something which you can do rather than just following that entire cycle of 6 weeks. So there is no protocol which you have to follow in terms of that you have to finish those 6 weeks. There is no fine as such. So you can expedite your switches. Second, in these markets, last 3.5 to 4 years, your lump sum return obviously is better than SIP because it was a secular bull run what we have seen from the bottoms of COVID till today. And yes, but for a salaried person or someone who's having cash flows which is coming on a monthly basis, I think SIP is a beautiful tool. Again, the same thing comes. You say that lump sum has generated maybe 1.5–2% extra, but when you are in equity markets and you are generating more than 15–16%, in fact, at least for last 4 years, then I think your work is done. We have to actually categorize our expectation also, how much we actually expect from capital markets. And when you are beating capital markets, let's say food inflation is 8%, take for example, and you're beating it by 5–6%, it's a very good return. But all you have to do is start early. Coming back to the first question when you last pointed out, how many people actually start putting money when markets are correcting?
Yeah.
At that time, everybody wants to leave the market, and when there's the blood on the street, nobody wants to invest. Yeah. So I think whenever you have a disciplined cash flows coming your way, keep investing and keep allowing your corpus to multiply in a multi-fold way.
I'm glad that you pointed that out, because one part of what I want to discuss today is that averaging concept, which is dealing with situations of feast and famine in both situations. And I thought that was an interesting concept. We'll come to that in just a bit. An underrated concept, in my opinion, is the step-up SIP. And this is building into the SIP itself to say that you want to increase it every year by 5%. 10% is what most people talk about, because anything beyond that, you're not really seeing your income go up by that amount, 15, 20, 30%. And it becomes much harder down the line. But talk to me first, I'll come to you, Vineet, on the power of something like this. You've actually, okay, I must state that you must take these projections with a pinch of salt, but we're looking at very modest projections of 12% per annum. It's still very powerful.
Absolutely. See, any amount of money that you are incrementally putting into the markets, that's helping you to kind of have a compound return on that additional amount of money. And that's a very disciplined way of investing. Say on the anniversary of the investment, every 12 months, you're kind of increasing. That helps you to kind of compound and helps you to kind of, stay disciplined in terms of making those investments going for the longer term.
Okay, let's talk about what you've built out then. And we've talked about the HDFC Index Nifty 50 Growth Fund, okay? Yeah. And we talked about what it would yield if you were just to do a 10,000 rupee SIP for a period of time. What was this? This was the start date of 2004 September, ending in 2024. So we're talking about 20 years. It would yield about 1.04 crore. Yeah. Your invested amount would be about 24 lakhs, yeah, but you would end up with close to 1.04 crore. If you were incrementing that original 10,000 rupees by 5% per year, you would end up having invested about 39.9 lakh rupees, and the value as on the 1st of September of this year, I believe, yeah, is 1.47 crore, yeah, which is a difference of about 42.6 lakh rupees just because you incremented by 5%. What if you did 10%, which is what is suggested for most people to do? You would have invested 69.4 lakh rupees, and you would end up with a corpus in 20 years of 2.18 crore rupees. The difference between keeping that 10,000 standard and incrementing it by 10% is as much as 1.13 crore rupees. You're making more than double what you had made. In fact, much more than double what you had made, what you would have made if you had kept that stable. It's very powerful. Kshitij, you want to comment on how significant this is?
I think the way every year, whether you're a businessman or you're in service, and India being a growing economy, you get that type of bracket of increments, at least 12 to 15% is what we are looking at. But you see that your discretionary spend is something which goes up, or investing is what goes up. Your fixed expenses are more or less are not growing at that speed. So there is a scope of 10% always. It's a beautiful example what you have just shown. I've not taken any fund, but I can just tell you, you take a 10,000 rupees SIP, you do it for 30 years at 1% it compound, you end up having close to about 3.5 crore. At the same time, if you keep on stepping up, that means, let's say year 1, 2024, you're doing 10,000, year 2, you start with 11,000, and it keeps again, next year it again increased by 10%, and it grows at 12% compounding, you end up at 8.7 crore. So I'm saying the difference is staggering over a period of time with 10%. If you actually see, and we are just taking a nominal GDP rate of India, 12% growth. I'm not taking any bigger numbers, but I'm saying important it is that whenever you have something which is additional coming your way, whether it's a lump sum part or some bonus coming your way, or you have some increments going your way, first of all, add to your SIP. Because I think earlier you start, we are a young country, more than 60 crore people, less than 40 years of age. And I'm not saying that don't enjoy life. All I'm saying is that have a good, decent corpus. We don't have a social security system here in India. Once you have a good, decent corpus, you can decide. And I believe, Alex, at some point, if your loans have been taken care, if you have achieved a 20 crore corpus also, things can be done through a SFDP in a very, very sweetened way.
Yeah, and that's something that I would wish for all of the viewers on this show to experience, a 20 crore corpus that you build through a SIP route. Wow, that's something to look forward to. Let's talk about dealing with feast and famine, and it's an interesting concept. Vineet shared it with me the other day, and I've come across this in the past. It's simply adjusting the amount of money that you invest based on how the market performs. Vineet, you want to very quickly take us through what this concept is all about?
Sure. In basic terminology or language, we call it as a value averaging.
Okay.
What happens in this concept is, for example, if you have put 100 rupees in an equity fund and your assumption is that it will return you 12%. So ideally, at the end of 12 months, your 100 rupees should become 112.
Yes.
But the markets might not deliver 12%. It might deliver a little higher or a little lower. For example, if the market delivers only 5%, so your 100 becomes 105, but you had targeted to have 112. And this particular concept works very well if you are working on a financial planning approach. So the subsequent year, when you're making an additional 100 rupees of contribution, you not only put 100, but you also put additional 7 rupees that you did not make because of the market returns, because it did not work very well in terms of the returns. So you add 100 and so you have 100 plus 7, 107 is what you contribute. So if you keep on doing these kind of adjustments year on year, I see that the kind of returns that you will be able to generate in the same market could be as high as 5 to 6% on an annualized basis.
More than what you would
have normally made. So the empirical evidence says that, and I've done the data analysis from 1996 till 2024, the kind of returns that Nifty has generated, if someone has just stayed invested, did not do anything, is about 12.01%. On the other hand, the kind of returns that one can actually make, and I'm quoting this empirical evidence, is about 18.5%. So that's a 6.5, close to 6.5% of alpha getting generated year on year just by tweaking this. So the only thing that is required for someone to, get benefited from this is to be disciplined in terms of putting more money when things are not going great, and when things are good, you need to have the discipline to pull out money and stay in cash.
Okay. But can you explain how this would happen? Because if you're building in a 12% gain over a period of time,
yeah.
Wouldn't you adjust it every year to get that 12%? And so how do you end up with 18%?
So what happens here, Alex, is that when the returns are not great, you're putting in more money.
Sure.
So subsequently, when you make more money, let's say the following year, the returns are quite higher, let's say in the 15-20% range. So extra money that you have, you pull that out,
yeah.
you stay on cash, maybe, you put it in some liquid fund, you generate money. And then what you're essentially doing here is you're putting more money when the markets are down, and you're putting less money when the markets are up. And that basically helps you to generate that alpha.
Okay. You want to come in on this, Kshitij? It's not the easiest, admittedly, it's not the easiest method to employ. And I've heard this in the context of having a particular goal and something that you think is non-negotiable. You need, say, 1 crore in 20 years' time for a particular purpose. You back calculate and you say, at 12% every year, this is how much. So essentially, you're utilizing equity markets, but you're trying to get a predictability to the kind of return that you would get. Is this a concept that you think can be employed?
I think very well explained by Vineet about this concept that you are presenting. The only catch here is that it actually very difficult to work for salaried people because they have their expenses going. Most of us, or most of the people around, they don't have that type of surplus where they can add on as and when, because everything has been fixed. Whatever surplus is there, we keep on asking people to keep on stepping up their SIPs. So that's what we do. So I think as a concept, it's a good concept. But my only point here is that for that someone who has that surplus can only participate in this type of concept. Moreover, in equity markets for long-term goals, we say that 12% is what is achievable if you put money. And any goal planning, as you are saying, Alex, somebody is doing, should look at doing. One should do with the target plan of that 11 to 12% is what return you can get, because now there is the element of capital gain also, which is 12.5%. Whenever you are going to take out money, there is a capital gain part also. So you have to plan that. Yes, with 10% of growth, tax-free growth, I can get that type of corpus, and anything which is coming as a plus is an advantage or a bonus to you. So there's nothing wrong with the concept, but salaried people might find it difficult because they have their fixed things going on a monthly basis, and if the market is very volatile, this would require a very active participation. and cash flows.
Yeah, it's a fair point. You know, we normally take queries on the show, and quite a few of you have already written in. On the bottom of your screen, you will see a number, and that's where you can send your questions to us. If you are writing in, do tell us what your goal is, why you would like to save the money that you intend to save. Also, what your age is, because that will help our experts help you better. The first question we're taking today is from Karthik. Karthik is 41 years old and is investing in 5 funds on a monthly basis, SIPs. And he's named them: Kshitij, ICICI Large and Mid Cap, HDFC Flexi Cap, Kotak Multi Cap, Bandhan Small Cap, and ICICI Pru Manufacturing Fund. I'm not really sure about what the corpus currently stands at, but he's saying the SIP per fund is 20,000 rupees. He's asking whether this is a good selection for 10 plus years, and he's also looking to add 2 more funds. What would they be?
I think the selection of fund is actually very good, Alex. There is one sectoral fund which is manufacturing fund, and with the way government is focused on manufacturing, and I've been seeing you covering a lot on that piece, and they're talking about 25% contribution of the GDP by 2030 will come from manufacturing, which is around 16.5%. So manufacturing is no more a cyclical sector, but I think it's an evergreen sector now, and you see India pressing hard on that part. So I think selection of fund is good. He has flexi cap, large and mid cap, multi cap. I don't think there is need of any further addition of many fund. He already have 5 funds for next 10 years. He wanted to sit in that almost lakh of a SIP he's doing. I think he doesn't need any new fund. If he's starting now, I think if the corpus will grow around 15%, he can expect a corpus of corpus around, say, let's take, for example, close to about 4.5, 5 crore in 10 years' time. But my only suggestion there is whatever amount he want to add as a further SIP, he should further divide between these funds only. Avoid doing small cap, because he already have 20,000 in Bandhan small cap. There is no need to have much more allocation towards small cap funds. But yes, for other 4 funds, he can divide the further allocation.
Utilize maybe the step-up approach that we spoke about on this program itself. Harsh Jain from Mumbai has got a question. His target is to achieve a corpus of 3 crore over 15 years, and he's got several investments that he's already doing. He's doing a SIP of 55,000 rupees split into the HDFC Index Sensex plan, Quant Large Cap, Parag Parikh Flexi Cap, JM Flexi Cap, Kotak Emerging Equity, Motilal Oswal Mid Cap, the Nippon Small Cap, which is the largest in the space, as well as the Tata Small Cap. What would you say about this? It's quite a few schemes.
Yeah, but it's a decently built portfolio, and if you actually look at the composition of this, an HDFC Sensex is an index fund, then it's complemented that with an actively managed fund by Quant, and then you have one of the top 2 leaders in the flexi cap segment, Parag Parikh being one of the largest schemes, and JM has been very consistent, although it's not a very big fund house, but they have delivered some decent performance in the recent past. So
the flexi cap is one of the top performers of the last 3 years.
Absolutely, but in terms of JM fitting that, a small EMC fitting that bill and coming in the top 3 is something. So the fund picks have been good. And if you look at the small cap segment, Nippon, like you said, has been the leader of the pack, and Tata is also catching up.
In fact, interestingly, he's got quite a few of the winners, right? Because Quant has done well on the large cap front. JM Flexi Cap among the top performers. Motilal Oswal Mid Cap also among the top performers.
Yeah, is a rebound performance.
Nippon Small Cap is also one of the top performers. He's done incredibly well. So he's bet on the winners.
Absolutely. And if you look at the allocation to small cap, it's a little over 15%, and the mid cap is around the 20% mark. So he's been cautious in terms of allocation, quite unlike of a retail investor who's big on mid cap and small cap. So it's happy to, I'm happy to see that the allocation towards large cap is more, and the portfolio is less on risk relatively.
Possibility of earning 3 crore in 15 years?
Quite possible. At a 12 to 13% of annualized return, he will end up investing about 1 crore, and that through the SIP way, getting 3x should not be that much of a problem.
Okay, fantastic. On that note, we're completely out of time on this particular edition of the Mutual Fund Show. Vineet, as well as Kshitij, thank you so much for taking the time, for answering the questions that you did, as well as for discussing very powerful concepts when it comes to investing in mutual funds. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Mutual Fund Show. Thanks so much for watching. Do stay tuned. This is NDTV Profit.